Hi, welcome to Film Stash. My name is Douglas Campbell, and today we are talking about the follow-up to Inside Out, Inside Out 2. Inside Out 2 takes place 1 year after the events of the first film. Riley, now 13 years old, is about to attend high school, and a lot of changes are occurring within her social circle. Her mind headquarters also undergoes a sudden demolition to make room for new emotions. Joy, sadness, anger, fear, and disgust, who've long been running a successful operation, aren't sure how to feel when anxiety shows up. And it looks like she's not alone. While I like the original Inside Out, I feel like there were a couple of small things here and there that truly held it back from being a great Pixar film. Fast forward 9 years later, not only do I think that Inside Out 2 is a better film, but I think if they keep it up, I think they have a film series that could rival Toy Story someday. Pixar and Disney have been struggling a lot lately, both financially and within the public reception. Their animation, where it still counts, is still at the top of their game. The character designs from the first film still carry over. The new designs that they have for the different emotions, they do stand out, and they're creative and funny. Also, the different animation styles they incorporate within this new film help to make it stand out from other Pixar movies. The voice cast of comedic actors is still fantastic. I enjoy watching these characters now, and they still bring their A game. Of the new characters, though, I feel that Maya Hawke as Anxiety, she really stands out amongst the new emotions that are at play here. Even amongst the main principal voice cast, Bill Hader and Mindy Kaling, they have been replaced. Now playing Fear and Disgust is Tony Hale and Liza Lapira. They do a great job filling in those shoes that were left behind. And I think, at first, you do kind of notice that something is off, or at least maybe I noticed something is off because I just saw the first one not that long ago. They do fill those roles very well, and after a while, honestly, you don't even notice that they're gone. Even though these films cover very similar ground, at least from this one to the previous one, I feel like the themes, they are still universal. Because at some point in all our lives, we had to tackle the anxieties of trying to fit in with a new group of peers, or maybe a coworker, or some people we hope to be friends with. And it does maintain that universal appeal that the first film had, while maturing the story up just slightly. Some of the complaints that I had last time, they definitely improved upon. The other emotions who had not as much play with the main plot, fear, disgust, and anger, they're right front and center. They're part of the main plot moving forward. And it's kind of refreshing to see that a lot of the issues I had with the previous film, I know Pixar didn't listen to me because I just saw it last week, but they fixed it. I don't know if someone's listening and they changed the last minute, but they fixed a lot of my problems that I had. Even with Riley, one of my complaints last week was that I feel like she was kind of an afterthought with the plot, but they balanced the time perfectly between the emotions and Riley. Emotions are going through their own arc, and Riley is going through her own mini arc concurrently, and they both play hand in hand in a way where they both feel independent, and there's cohesion with the story at the same time to where they connect perfectly. There aren't a whole lot of mixed elements with this movie. Like what I mentioned earlier, a lot of my main issues have been fixed from the first to the second film. Although I will say, with the new emotions, the only one that truly stands out is anxiety. And I think that's just because that's the emotion that they give the most to do in terms of the plot. Now, every other emotion, despite being very creative and cute and funny, and they do get their moment to shine, truly I feel like they don't leave as much of an impact as anxiety, or even if we're comparing it to the first film, all the other emotions. And some of them, they could have honestly either been omitted or even mixed together. And I guess this isn't necessarily a complaint with me, but in the grand scheme of both of these movies and talking about them, The first film, it did have a lot more going for it in terms of introducing this concept and exploring new worlds within Riley's mind. And in the second film, while I do think the story is better, it's tighter, it's more cohesive, and a lot of my issues have been fixed, you could argue that technically the animation, in terms of like the world building, it's not as fully fleshed out. The main worlds that you have seen within the first film, they are there, but there are no new parts of Riley's mind that are introduced. Could lead to fun creative set pieces, and some people could have an issue with that, but the fact that we do get a better, tighter story from it in place of that, I'm perfectly okay with that. In the end, I think Inside Out 2 is the perfect continuation from where the first film left off. I think it still has a lot of the same creativity and fun that the first film had. It matures the story a bit more and takes it in a new direction. Even in the grand scheme of things, they're still making it accessible to children. These type of thoughts that they might not even experience until they're a little bit older, or they might be experiencing right now. Just they can't fully explain it themselves. I'll give this film an 8 out of 10. I gotta fix that bell. You know what that means? That means it's time for intermission! So today, I kind of want to continue the trend of the sweet candy that we started last week, since it is Inside Out. And this popcorn that I picked, it's Snickers flavor, actually. It seems like it's got the chocolate and some nuts and other stuff in it. And I'm kind of excited for it. I mean, the Oreo cookie tasted good last week. So let's just dig right in. Let's see how it tastes. Ooh. This looks good. That looks so good. I can't wait. You can see the stripes on there of the chocolate and the caramel, I think. At least I think it's caramel. Alright, let's just try it. Well, it doesn't taste like a Snickers bar. You do taste the chocolate and the nuts. That is really sweet. I definitely think Oreos tasted better, but again, this is still very delightful. It does have that crunch, but it's soft. I think what's missing from this popcorn is the previous popcorn, even though it was also a bit softer, they had a bit of the hard chocolate cookie on the top that kind of brought some of the crunch back in, as well as the flavor. And this, there's some crunch, but there's not as much of a crunch to it. I don't know, it's just a little off, but not bad. I mean, compared to last week, I'd give that a 7.5 out of 10. Like, it's good, but it's not as good as Oreos, though. That one was perfect, practically. Now, this week, I don't really have a film recommendation because I feel Osmosis Jones, it still could be applicable to this, just it's not with a teenage girl now. It's, you know, it's with an older man in that one, but I digress. This week, though, I'm gonna try to do something a little different. It hasn't been confirmed yet, but based off of how much money it's making, I think it's safe to say they're probably gonna make a third one. I'm gonna try to predict what I think is gonna happen with Inside Out 3. I think with this series, what makes it great, and what I think could potentially make it outlast even Toy Story if they play their cards right, is that it spans the whole life of Riley. As long as you keep making these movies and you age her up appropriately, like, you could have this thing go on for years. And the best course of action, I feel, is to age her up gradually with each film. She started off as a kid in the first one, she's becoming a teenager in this one, and I think for the third one, you don't have to jump to where she's like in her mid-20s or in her 30s trying to figure out her adult life. I think that having her be a young adult would be perfect grounds for emotions. Of the new emotions that are introduced in Inside Out 2, there's one that they kept playing as a joke. That emotion is nostalgia. And honestly, I think that that's the way that they should take the next story of Inside Out. Nostalgia, and I think this is something our generation kind of struggles with a little bit, is they look a little too much on the past during times of trouble. I mean, we all do. But I feel like the dangers of looking back and not moving forward could be an interesting place for Riley as a young adult who's going through so much change that she's having a hard time adapting. And I think that that could be a very interesting parallel with learning to move on that the first film had, by having her try to move on with her life and accept new changes moving forward. Whether they do that or not is one thing. They could even save that for whenever she's a little bit older, like in her 30s. But what I'm saying here is I really think that Inside Out 3, regardless,
It's going to be super depressing.
even if they do want to kind of leave her in high school and experience high school, I think we could probably get something fun and emotionally resonant with that too. But like I said before, I think it's more beneficial to just keep moving forward increments at a time. And if you do want to explore the little tidbits that would be great to see, but not necessarily within a feature film, I think they could just keep making Pixar shorts to fill the gap in between. Like they made one called Riley's First Date, and I think you could just do that. Well, that's all the time we have for today here at Film Stash. My name is Douglas Campbell, and if you excuse me, I gotta add to the stash.